Unlike some other holidays we'll see later on in the year, New Year's Eve and day celebrations have changed very little since the 1900s in comparison to how it is celebrated today. Hell, even the tradition of the ball dropping in New York was started in 1908. However, it's unlikely that someone in the countryside would have been able to personally witness it. This was a time before TV and consumer radio, so the only knowledge I would have had at the time at all would have been printed in the newspaper. But still, people out in the sticks would have celebrated it with house parties, going to bars, counting down and lighting fireworks as the clock strikes midnight. Now, social rules are always a bit more lax around the holidays. New Year's was the only holiday during the 1900s that women could visit bars to partake in more than just tea without social stigma. Educators like myself wouldn't have had to worry about its reputation either, so long as we weren't too rowdy. I was certainly surprised to find that fortune-telling games were not all that popular for New Year's. Not to say that they didn't happen, they most certainly did. In fact, it was particularly popular on the eve of 1900, as people were not only predicting their futures for the upcoming year, but the upcoming century as well. But for a few years prior to the 20th century was already being called the American century, so many people just decided to focus on celebrating the turning of the century, drinks, and company. Unlike prior years, when I decided that sleep was more important than the changing of the year, I decided to tag along with my good friend, Sean, to attend a party some of his friends were having. As one would typically expect, there was great food, great company, and lots of drinks. Neither Sean nor I drink though, so we just watched the rest of the adults slowly get more and more intoxicated. It was like herding cats to get everyone to sit down long enough for a card game, but we still got through a few rounds. After a long evening of talking, joking, and overeating, it was finally time to count down. We all gathered around the clock, drinks in hand, and started the countdown. 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year, we shouted, clinking our glasses together, and so the project officially began. Unsurprisingly, the day after 1900 started just as it did for everyone else in 2025, sleeping in late and feeling like you didn't sleep at all. The cats demanded that I feed them, so I got up at roughly 7 a.m. I decided to take the day rather easy, but I still needed to do some chores, primarily dishes and laundry. So I learned to turn everything inside out beforehand, because you're obviously not going to get as vigorous as agitation with a stick as you would with a regular washing machine. So it really helps speed up the process if you turn all your socks and whatnot inside out. Of course, I learned that after I got everything soaked. But, it's kind of a learning as we go. You can see already, because I've only been doing this for a few minutes already, how murky the bathwater's gotten. I only have a few things in here, and I didn't think they were really all that dirty, but my god. And really, if you think about a modern washing machine, all it really is a big tub of soapy water and an agitator. It's just the machine's doing the agitating for you. So this isn't really all that different from a washing machine. It's taking out the convenience option. But yeah, I'm doing it in the bathtub in lieu of an actual wash tub, because I don't got one of those. I don't know where to get one of those. Probably Lowe's. Maybe. But yeah. Traditionally, this would have been done outside under the spigot, but this will be my spigot tub for now until I can get an actual wash tub and we can do it the real old-fashioned way. Yeah, this stuff is almost ready to take out. I'm going to drain the tub, fill it again, give it a nice rinse, wring everything out, and it being beginning of January, it's going to be too cold outside to leave this stuff hanging. It's just going to freeze. And I don't really have the space to hang it up inside, which is what they would have done. So I'm just going to have to resort to the actual dryer for that portion until we can figure out a way to rig up outdoors or an indoors clothesline, or until it gets warmer outside. Yeah. I think I'm going to give this a drain and start the rinse cycle. Okay, now we got everything filled with clean water, so I'm just going to just beat it up one more time. Make sure we get out all the leftover soap or whatever dirt is left. I've been beating this for a few minutes. You can already see how murky the water's gotten again. I might give this a second rinse, but I'm not too worried about it. So yeah, I'll have a more in-depth video on laundry later on after I complete doing all my research, because I'm fairly certain they did have a sort of washing machine prototype around the 1900s, but if they did, it wasn't widespread, so people were still doing laundry by hand, especially in rural areas. Dishes were much easier. I filled up my canning pot with water, heated it on the stove, and used my regular sponge and dish soap to clean everything. Now, way back in the 1900s, they didn't have sponges and soap like the ones I'm using. They would have used a scrub brush, a wash rag, and a regular bar of soap. But I'm choosing to use up what I got first and then simply not replace it. I didn't get any footage of me washing the dishes because by the time I got around to it, it was dark and I had to do it by candlelight. Sean and I had mulligatawny soup for dinner.
Mulligatawny.
A recipe from my Fanny Farmer 1896 cookbook. It is very nice. I would recommend it. That cookbook has quite a few really good recipes. All in all, the first official day of the project went very well. I had a few hiccups, but a lot of things that I thought would be difficult, such as giving up my routine of listening to YouTube while eating breakfast, I found were a lot easier than expected. I even beat the machine washer when doing my laundry in the tub. I'm very optimistic about the rest of the decade and decades to come.